Okay.
Oh,
So how you doing, Mike?
so far, so good. It's been a busy day. It will continue to be a busy day, but for the moment, it can be not so busy.
All I'm happy is that you're doing everything you do is very, very productive. I completely understand. You're a married man with a wife and two children in an unpredictable schedule, which is your acting career.
Mm-hmm.
So let's. Oh, go ahead.
It is.
So let's jump to the obvious question. When did you find the passion for acting along with radio?
First time on stage when I was in third grade in a Roman Greek pageant with everybody wearing bedsheet togas, and I got the theater bug just being on stage, basically walking across, possibly having one line I don't even remember. Go on stage and the roar of the crowd, such as it was, and that brought the theater bug. And then just as a kid, radio was my constant companion. There was not only the music stations, but there was old time radio drama that I was able to access, and it was just a world of theater of the mind entertainment. So I embraced both of those, and when it came time to choose a career path in college, I chose radio because while both radio and theater are insecure employment wise. Radio seems to be a little more constant, but after spending 15 or so years in radio, radio had enough of me, and I was able to pull together the various character bits that I'd done for the radio and make a demo reel, and was able to fall back on the theater training that I picked up on the way.
And that sounds great. That sounds very interesting. Another thing is, did you like? Since I know you live in Rochester, New York, right?
That was a while ago. Now I'm not.
Okay, okay. So did you like commute into the city and go see like a bunch of theater productions in the New York City area?
Sure. Basically, wherever I've lived has been close enough to the theater. We grew up on Long Island, so there was trips in on the Long Island Railroad to see shows. When living in Manhattan proper, we'd go and see shows. So, oh yeah, the theater has never been too far from my grasp, fortunately.
That's good. That's good. That's good. And then when you first booked your own radio job, how old were you and how was that transitioning? Because I know you were like a teenager going into adulthood in the 80s.
There was a high school radio thing when I was in high school at the local college station, which wasn't really much of anything. We sent in recorded bits that weren't of any great quality, but it was a cool thing to have. Then I kind of worked at the college radio station there when I was still in high school. When one of my favorite call-in quiz shows got booted from its own station, I
Oh,
was friendly enough with this station to say, "Hey, how about a show?" And they moved the show over there. And then in college, I was at the college station for a while, but the first paying gig was a part-time job in Syracuse at Y94 FM and WSYR.
that's
Uh,
right. That's right.
and I was able to be an air personality and play the hits and have a great old time.
And I remember reading something. I think you admitted to this in one of your social media accounts where you actually contact with the voice of Rocky, not Rocky. I forgot the name. Rocky and Bull. Yeah, Rocky the Squirrel, the voice actor June Foray. How was that experience? Because I know you was kind of excited talking with her at the time.
Yeah, I was always resourceful. I've been resourceful my whole life. So when I was in high school, I was
Oh
able
yeah.
to phone calls pre-internet, calling directory assistants the hard way, and I got contact information for the entire surviving cast at that time of the Rocky and Bullwinkle show. So Bill Scott, June Foray, Paul Frees, and we recorded them actually for our call-in quiz show because we were collecting celebrities to do one of our catchphrase bits. And I got all of them on the phone and had lovely little chats, and they were very receptive, and they were able to have a quick chat and do our little character voice catchphrase. So, a minor thrill at a young age.
Yeah, I always find that interesting because you know, like when you recognize the actor or actress behind the character voices, and then back then, you know, resources wasn't as versatile as it is today when we have social media, the whole internet and whatnot. But for you back in the day where you got in contact with the surviving cast of the Rocky and Bullwinkle show, I have to say that's a very, very amazing feat that you did because especially with the limited resources back in the 80s. I have to commend you for that.
It was a different time, and it had its goods and bads, and that was one of them.
And then, as we move forward into your lifetime, how did you first heard about? Where do you discover that you want to do voiceovers for your acting career after since radio kind of kicked you in the butt, kind of?
I've always been doing character voices, both on stage, playing characters on stage, and in radio, doing commercial voices and comedy bits for the morning show. So I'd already had characters in my head, and
Okay.
once radio had enough of me, I said, well, okay, I can make this demo tape and turn it into voice. And it worked out. I got some coaching. So I got a quality demo, several different genres worth of demo, and send them out to the right people. And people called back and said, come here, let's talk.
Yeah, and speaking of the clients that you got in contact with during the earliest day of your voiceover career, I think your first gig was in Central Park Media, right?
First gig, if you want to count from animation, was a video presentation recorded basically in some guy's spare bedroom.
Okay. No worries.
Called Little Tug's Big Adventure, still available, I think, online on good days, if you look for it.
Yeah.
It was a VHS release, and I played most of the male voices. I was going to be the female voices as well. He did not quite like my performance there, but I am at least most of the male voices in the finished product. And then the first anime, if you want to count anime experience, was at NYAV Post, where I was Professor Kamo in Demon Fighter Kocho.
Right. I was just reading through that. I'm like, was it Central Park Media or NYAV Post? And with NYAV Post, of course.
Yeah, it had come and gone by that point, but I got involved in some of their
productions
studios.
Yeah. And speaking with NYAV Post, how did you and Michael Center Nicholas hit it off? Did y'all hit it off naturally and whatnot, or it was just like more of like a friendly chat between actor and actor, or actor and director? And
it was old school, and I submitted to a classified ad by mail in a printed paper.
Yeah.
A cassette. That's how old all of this is. And I sent in my demo tape. He was looking for cartoon voices, and he liked my demo and called me, tasked me as Professor Kamo, and he gave me a copy of the Japanese original video. Not sure that was very helpful, but watched it, came in, recorded it. I think there's still some behind-the-scenes blooper video that you can find online, and we had a grand, long relationship. And NYAV Post continues to this day.
Oh, I'm very grateful for how that production company expanded so much since 20 years ago, because I was watching a panel featuring Michael Center Nicholas. He wanted his production company to expand to include many different talented people from across the United States, even overseas too, which is why he got two different locations, the New York area and LA.
Mm-hmm.
Which he does like cross country travel back and forth,
He's doing some amazing stuff.
Yeah. And because of Center Nicholas, that's how you got involved with 4Kids Productions?
Kind of the other way around, actually. I had also sent in another demo tape answering a classified ad for 4Kids, which happened to be for an episode of Pokemon, which they liked.
Yeah.
Eric Stewart was directing, called me in, got the one-off episode of Pokemon, and then 4Kids TV was just starting to happen, and Eric was instrumental in that. He recommended me to the various 4Kids TV people, so they brought me in for Kirby, Right Back at Ya, Ultimate Muscle. I got an audition for, I think, the narrator of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which didn't pan out, but I also became the voice of
Mm-hmm.
And they were also at one point auditioning for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And Nicholas heard about that and said, boy, I'd love to be a part of that. I said, I know some people. Come on over. And I basically walked them over and sweet talked our way in. And they gave him a spur of the moment interview, which probably wouldn't happen today, security being what it is. But yeah, I'll take full credit for getting him into 4Kids.
Oh, that's hey, by all means, I'm just glad to have like both Mikes perform in different kinds of projects, especially in New York area where it's often overlooked when it comes to ADR dubbing, you know. And one thing I want to say thank you for showing how much of a hardworking actor you are, actively searching for any possible gig that you can find in the New York City area. Because I know like some other actors that are originally New York based have moved away to either Texas or Southern California, you know, to find gigs that fit their talent, you know. Because I have to say, having an acting career is really really tough because you get a lot of no's before you get some yes. You know, it's amazing that for any actor to book their professional gig, it's a first stepping stone to the right direction. And then the more acting training, the most voiceover training you get, hopefully there'll be somebody looking at it and be like, hey, we could cast this person as this character, and if things go south, we can always cast him as another character, you know? It's always, I mean, it truly is a freelancing career.
Acting is a freelance business. Everybody forgets. But New York is home, and I'm delighted that thanks to the internet, I can apply my trade all around the world from the comfort of my own home.
And speaking of back to 4Kids, I want to talk more about your roles with Dim Pokemon. So the job as the narrator, the gig at the role as the narrator. So have you been familiar with the actor Roger Parsons? Have you met him before, or you met him afterwards?
At that point, I had not met him, but I did meet him on a bunch of commercial auditions because we ended up ending up at the same auditions.
Oh yeah.
Voiced the same spot. We both appeared for Creo, which is a line of toys. He played an announcer. I played a creature, and it was the rare occurrence of the two Pokemon narrators appearing in the same unrelated project.
Yeah. And I can say that both of you guys got a great voice for narration roles. And like, if I hear your voice and I hear his voice, I'm like, yeah, now I see why they've been cast for commercial roles and narration roles. It's a good voice fit for that role, you know. Like, not all actors have that one natural voice, sounding voice where it cannot always translate well when it comes to narration roles. And the funny thing about Pokemon is that I did my homework. I realized that at the time when they had that little clause happen in between when the Pokemon company switched from 4Kids to Taj Productions and then to Duart and whatnot, he came back as a narrator and you came back as Raul Contesta, taking over from the actor that originally. I find that funny because I mean he stopped. I think he most likely just left the role because he had to take care of some other business, and then you took over as the narrator. Then he came right back. You left, and then you came right back to your original role as Raul Contestas.
It's a wild business.
Yeah, like I can't imagine a time where you're replacing your replacement for a role and then continue on until the end of that character's tenure. I'm still laughing about it. It's a good thing because things like that don't normally happen in the acting business because I figure like when you get replaced, that's the end of that and whatnot. Then suddenly they call you back. I think Tom Whalen calls you back for Raul Contesta or
probably Lisa Ortiz at that time.
But Lisa, okay. Yeah, because I was trying to figure out who was like the casting director. I can't always assume Tom Whalen at the time, but I remember Lisa.
It was Tom at that time before it was Lisa. So yeah.
Okay. Because I remember I talked to Chris Niosi, which you already familiar with. He told me when he booked his first role as Corey on Pokemon, he told me Lisa was the one casting him for that role and whatnot. So I'm like, okay, she was being the casting director along with performing character roles in the show too. Yeah, small world in New York City, I tell you that. And within, I remember Roger Parsons mentioned that you and the other actors working under 4Kids production, yeah, used to have like cast parties and whatnot and little get-togethers after a production wrapped up. And can you share that kind of back behind-the-scenes stories with that, you know?
Sure, it's just an interesting experience because most of the time, 4Kids doing dubs, we recorded separately. So
of course.
We hear each other, and we may not have ever met. So
yeah.
The occasional cast party was a great opportunity to say, "That's you? Wow, this is me. Hi, how are you? Good to see you." Otherwise, it's just passing each other in the halls and, hi, all right, gotta go. You gotta do a thing. I gotta go do the thing. But yeah, a lot of fun just seeing everybody in a non-high pressure work environment.
Right, because the only time you see you guys when it comes to sessions where you just see them coming out, and then once you come out, you see them coming in. They're like, "Hey, how you doing? Good luck with your session," you know.
Yep, you're in, I'm out. Gotta go.
Yeah. Now let's move on to your well-known role as Dr. Eggman. So I already know the full story about that. During the time when they start casting actors for Sonic X, the producers were definitely eyeing you as the voice of Dr. Eggman, but Sega wasn't convinced of your performance as Dr. Eggman, so you did a whole couple of callbacks and keep on auditioning for the role, and then eventually you booked the role doing a Dean Bristow impression, right?
Basically, Dean Bristow sounded like.
So, yeah.
For them.
So, yeah, sorry. And then, man, it's been about 20 years since you booked that gig, and nobody could have predicted that you're still voicing this character to this day, you know what I mean? Like, that's why on your Twitter bio, you like Dr. Eggman 2003, because you never know when your next Dr. Eggman session will be your last. You never know. You're just happy that you're doing the work.
And my next paycheck is coming from, I'm delighted that some of them come from Dr. Eggman.
Yeah. And speaking with Dr. Eggman, like 2 years since you've been voicing the character during when Sonic X was in productions, one of your first time voicing the character in the video game was Shadow the Hedgehog. I went on YouTube. A fan uploaded a clip where have a full, I'm not even kidding, it's like 50 hours of Dr. Eggman recordings. Wow. By that, did you honestly record like over like 20 hours of Dr. Eggman for that video game, if you can recall correctly?
I can't imagine it was that. I don't.
Okay. Like, because I'm seeing like this video is like 50 hours long for a YouTube video. I'm like, how is that possible? And there's no way you can record like 20 hours of Dr. Eggman for this one video game, because I know Dr. Eggman talked a lot in that game because I played that game many, many times. And like,
game sessions more than 4 hours.
Okay. We have 4 hours at a time, you know.
And there's 2 or 3 of those with that.
Yeah. And then with your performance at Dr. Eggman for the Fame game Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, I just beaten that game 2 days ago. I have to say your performance as Dr. Eggman was the most humanly performance that I've seen within the character, because as I stated this to you before on Twitter, that your performance as Dr. Eggman in that game reminded me of a James Bond villain, because he was less cartoony, comedic. He was more like, get to the point, I have a plan, I want to make sure to get it done, and nobody can stop me. I refuse to let Sonic and anyone else get in my way of enacting that plan to come to fruition, you know?
That's part of the challenge. Character, he looked different, he sounded different based on the words. So okay, we're going to play this a little darker.
Yeah. And then the transition to 2010, where the production of the Sonic cast moved back to California and LA in Studiopolis. That's where most of the productions are being held when it comes to actor recordings, because I know many of the actors record their sessions at Studiopolis still, and you go to a separate studio in New York City to record your sessions at Dr. Eggman.
Mm-hmm. Most of the time, if most of the time they were at a studio in New York, one of several. A couple times we got flown out to work all together with everybody, which is always cool. And nowadays with lockdown, recording from home. So that's perfect.
And I have to thank Sega for allowing you to record in a separate studio, separate from the main studio from Studiopolis, because, you know, it's rare. Usually they have that set for like celebrity actors doing like voiceover, because, you know, because their time is very, very limited, especially when it comes to voiceovers. They got probably another on-camera gig going on. They can't fly to that certain studio for that time, so they have like their own remote studio where they just send in their lines to that prominent studio. So I'm just glad that Sega allowed you to perform at your convenience, because you live in New York, you don't want to fly back to LA and back for one session, because it is costly effective.
I appreciate the added expense that I that I was written up on the bottom line. So.
Yeah. And then I want to go back to NYAV post with voicing Adon Corbowitz. Now, that is one of my favorite roles that you've done in your career, because a character like that, you know, if I'm having a bad day and I'm doing a session voicing Adon, it would instantly cheer me up, because, you know, a character like Adon, he's very sexist, misogynist, cowardly, and yeah, he's not a pleasant character to be as in real life, but as an actor, lots of fun.
The human condition in all its forms.
That's good. And then let's move forward with recording from home since the pandemic started. Did you initially have any problems like fully adjusting from performing at your home studio? Because I know you told me this, that you already had your home studio set up for auditions, but not really for like EDR dubbing recording. Can you explain that process of how you adjust to recording from home?
Sure, lots of same way lots of other people did it. You got to do a little capital investment and upgrade some equipment. So I went from a USB microphone to an interface with a Real Live XLR based microphone. I upgraded my laptop to one that is fanless so that it can sit right next to me if I make a noise. Created some problems though, because it's not really powerful enough to run video simultaneously. But I figured out that I can run video on the tablet next to me, when audio on the laptop, and split everything, and that works out pretty well generally. And I've mastered all the various bits of software that every different studio uses. There are 4 or 5 competing platforms. I've used them all one time or another.
Yeah.
So, pretty much down to a science.
And could you say that your background with radio helped a lot with that transition as an engineer along with being an actor?
I've always been comfortable editing audio, so I get to clean up my own audio for auditions and occasionally for the bookings as well. So I'm very comfortable cleaning up all the little mouth noises that find their way into all the recordings, and putting the bad takes out, and nobody knows the difference.
Right. And then let's move on to this one role that you wrote on your website, Ratatouille. Every time I never heard of the show before. I just remember that people just, like, fans like to throw Ratatouille at your face and like Mike, what are you doing? Why are you even doing this type of gig with Ratatouille? I'm trying to figure out why we question the actor doing his job. He's doing what actors do. They're doing their job.
I provide a service. I'm a hire. I voice things that can't voice themselves. Sorry if you don't like that, but it's what I live for.
Yeah, you did say. Go ahead. Yeah, you did say my joy comes from performing, not in performing in things that you think are good.
So yeah, sorry.
But yeah, no need to apologize. You doing what you want to do, and you having fun with it.
Like sometimes plumbers install hot tubs, sometimes they unclog toilets. All part of the job.
Yep, I'm doing my job. I mean, I'm enjoying my job, but like I can't be. Don't shame me for it. And speaking of job shaming, thank you for sharing that perspective, because everybody's trying to make a financial living. I mean, the one thing you don't want to do is shame them for trying to make that living, because you never know. Times are very, very rough nowadays, especially during this pandemic. Like, the one thing you don't want to do is shame somebody for trying to make a financial living, especially if they enjoy doing their job. I mean,
I get paid when I'm working. I don't get paid for sitting around. I don't get paid for auditioning and looking for the work either. So since I never know where my next paycheck is coming from, I will tend to not turn down any work that might be offered.
True. And the thing is, before the pandemic started, you patiently you take a commuter bus into the city, right? You don't drive into New York. Yeah, that don't make no sense. No, because I'm like thinking, like, yeah, it makes sense for you to take a commuter bus into New York City, because from my personal experience, driving in New York City I would never do it again.
Buses, there's trains, there's trams, there's ferries. You can get into Manhattan and not have to park a car. So public transportation.
Yeah, because I already have a problem driving through New York City. Now the parking, I know, is going to be a huge hassle and cost effectively too. And certainly, I'm gonna go back to Pokemon a little bit, especially with the role as Volcanion. I remember we talked about it a couple of years back on Facebook that you booked the role around summer of 2016, right?
Around about then, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember you I had to say, gratefully shared the schedule saying that Pokemon with Lisa, such and such and whatnot. Did you? I can understand the process as a voiceover actor, especially when it comes to dubbing work. So, do you just do like 3 different sessions at a time during the day when you're in the city, or anytime you needed to call in to do a session, you're right on it. You're taking the commuter bus all the way to New York City to record.
Yep. Generally, the studio will email or call and say, "We need you to come in. When can you come in?" And we work out a day. Oh, Tuesday's good. Great. We'll see you Tuesday. Can you come in at 11 o'clock? Sure. 11 to 4. Great. We'll see you then. And then I show up and do the thing and then go home.
Yeah, and I've been studying on many actors that live in like robust towns. I mean, because I know actress Michelle Knotts, which you already know. Like she lives in New Jersey, so she always commute anytime she do any kind of voiceover work in the New York City area. Sometimes she even traveled to Texas to do work with like Funimation and whatnot. So it's never an easy thing to live in the actual city and still do voiceover because I know the rent in New York is very, very expensive for one. And you to be a working actor, especially acting as your only source of income, you really got to put in the work. You still need that break, but you still need to put in the work of sending in your auditions, make sure you're on your sessions on time, and make sure your acting craft is on point. So the clients, the directors, the producer will look at it. Yeah, we're going to use this actor again in the future production.
Mm-hmm. The suburbs are perfect for being right near the city. Not too close, not too far.
That's good.
Takes you there and back. Also, not a problem.
Grateful. I'm very, very grateful. And another thing is, I want to go back to Pokemon again, which you already know I'm a Pokemon fan, as you could tell from this interview. So I'm assuming that you recorded your Drayden session at home, right?
The most recent one, yes.
Yes. And I do remember you voiced that same Team Rocket grunt too. He said something. I think he said Rhyperior or something, but I can't remember, and I know you can't remember. But yeah, so it's like, so when you're doing like multiple characters at a time, you do one at a time during the session. So like you're voicing Drayden one time, and then if Lisa, I'm pretty sure Lisa was directing you at the time, right? Okay, so we had you as Drayden, and then you voiced this Team Rocket grunt, and that's pretty much your session right there, right?
Mm-hmm. All the face, all the front, and then we're done.
That's good. Well, I'm gonna say one last thing before we wrap this up. Okay. What do you want to see more when it comes to voiceover actors? What do you want to see more in this career path? Because I see like many people want to be voiceover actors, but I see many of them don't take it seriously. Like, it's one thing to be an actor, but do you really want this profession? Like, are you willing to give out your best performance as an actor, especially doing voiceovers? Like, I hope you're not doing it for the wrong reasons, such as to get famous, because I know that should not be the case, because if you do so, you're not going to please yourself as an actor.
Fame is relative. I consider myself fame-ish rather than famous. Yeah. But yeah, don't get in it for the fame and fortune, because you may not have fame, you may not have fortune. Get in it because you love to do it and you can make a living doing it. And if you attract the fan base, so much the better. But as an actor, I've always been an actor to get my creative energy out on a stage or in a recording studio. And that is still why I exist. I just last night some little bit part in some anime, and just little moments of dialogue, and just not even dialogue, but weird reacts, just sounds. And I made myself laugh because like, that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, yes, you do, because I remember you doing this role. I forgot the name. It's something called Knights. I forgot the name of it. I mean, I shared you a video of this on Twitter where the director was definitely a female. I forgot the name, some kind of Royal Knights or something. You were playing like a young adult knight character, and then you did like several takes, and then you messed up, and then you gave yourself a little laugh because she was also laughing too, because I think it's that general sense of you performing, is you missed a little bit, it happens, you laugh at yourself because, it's all about having fun in a professional courtesy matter.
I love to see me work more than anybody, so
and trust me, I enjoy seeing you booking as many gigs as you possibly can, because I checked IMDb. It seemed like you did over 200 voice roles. Yeah, 200 voice character roles on your profile, and I'm pretty sure you did much more than that.
Oh yeah, there's again, nobody tracks all the commercial
stuff. Yeah. And excuse me, I'm so sorry, I forgot to mention your commercial roles too. Well, actually, I did with Roger Parson, but explain more. How do you audition for the commercial roles?
I've got a bunch of agents and managers. They send me auditions. I submit my audition, and if the casting director likes it, I book the role and I get to go in and do it. It used to be done in person. These days, it's pretty much almost exclusively remote.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure you did some remote recording before the pandemic started when it comes to commercials too, because there's times where if the client lives somewhere in a different state, not normally California, New York, or Texas, did you do your sessions at home too?
Most of the ones that were remote from a studio in Manhattan. The client might be remote.
Okay.
In person, but depending on the budgets of the client, if they don't want to pay for a studio, I got a bunch of clients that just send a script and say, do it from home. It's cheaper.
Especially when it's more ideal now. It's much more ideal than ever since March 2020. Yeah, and another thing is, excuse me for prying too much into your family life. So your wife is an actress too, right? Like, yep. That's how you met her? And your kids are doing...
Daughter is pursuing stage work more than my son is. My son was interested in theater for a while, but I see he's reached college age. I think he's leaning towards the technical side, if not the performing side. But who knows? He's not really declared a major. Could be psychology. Can't be sure. But the daughter, she's in school shows. She is in school plays and musicals. She is having a grand old time.
That's great. And then you met your wife. Her name is Janine, right? Yeah, did y'all met each other during a theater production, or just like...
We met in a show. We met in a musical comedy production of Hamlet called Hamlet Cha Cha Cha. I was Laertes, she was Queen Gertrude, and we had our little dance number where she quite literally picked me up. I leapt into her arms, looked at me, dropped me on the floor.
Yeah. There's always a good time when you're performing with your wife. I mean, it's always a good time, because I know a couple of actors who are married are actors too, and chances are if they're directing one another or they perform in the same booth or group recording sessions, like, it's always a good time, because as you know much more better than I do, the acting world can be very, very unpredictable. You're probably going to see people that you've never seen in a very, very long time.
We're going to be doing a two-person audition probably later tonight, so we'll see how that works out.
Good, that's good. And one thing I want to say one last thing.
Sure.
I remember over 10 years ago when James Snyder, aka Dan Green, his wife passed away from childbirth. You did the most genuine experience of having an open a GoFundMe page for him to help him financially support his twin children, because I know that was a very, very rough time that he was going through, James was going through at the time. I want to thank you so much for helping him out within that situation, because you did it on your own free will. I mean, you don't have to do it, but you did it because you see a fellow friend definitely in trouble and whatnot. He's a fellow actor too, so it was a lot going on for him, and I'm glad that at this time he's in a much better state of mind and mental health awareness thing, that he's still performing, and I've heard that he's also teaching voiceover classes too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I I created, I guess, GoFundMe before GoFundMe was a thing.
Yeah,
For a couple of years later, but timing didn't work out that way. But yeah, I was delighted to help, and he was delighted that I was delighted to help. So
yes, it's always nice to see like actor friends helping out one another, especially when you know where the paycheck. You never know when the next paycheck is coming. You know, is very very like I said before. It's a very very unpredictable. You gotta be in your A game at all time. It could be a small role, it could be a big role, it could be like that one-off Waller Group role where you just playing background noises. You know, but make the best of what you have as an actor, and there's always somebody watching, or in this case, listening to your performance, and then they're gonna catch you as the next big thing.
you can only hope.
Yeah, oh, we can only hope. And with that said and done, thank you for allowing me to borrow your time, Mike. I know it's very hectic as an actor. But I really, really appreciate this Skype interview. And I want to say good luck and always have fun performing.
Thank you for watching and listening, and best of luck in your future endeavors as well.
I really appreciate it, Mike. And I'll see you again on Twitter or any other social media account.
Thanks so much.
All right, take care, Mike.
Yeah.